Ian, the last time we went out and obviously you are a drone expert as well. Now, last time we went out, I was pretty impressed because you had our drone with you. We went out to this property outdoors. It was a little planning tool that you'd actually worked a lot on before you went to the site. Can you just talk about drones and mapping for us, please?
Yeah, sure. So one of the really nice things about drones is being able to get that aerial view. To turn that into a map, you need to control the photos that you take from that view. We choose specific drones and specific software that lets us program the flight path of the drone and exactly where it is when it takes photos and how high it is and what direction it's pointing, how close to each other the photos take to get the overlap. Pretty important to get that right. It depends on the optics in the camera and the angle of view, because the software that we use to make the maps, it's called photogrammetry. It stitches multiple photos together, and you need to get them overlapped by enough that the software can detect each photo and where it sits. The drones are nice because they embed the GPS data, including the altitude and the compass heading, in the photo metadata, which helps the photogrammetry software really nicely. But typically what will happen is we'll end up with 50 or 100 or 200 aerial photographs that all overlap each other by about 50 or 60%. And then we feed all of them into some software that works out how they all match up, distorts things because the edges of the camera lens curve things slightly, and it knows how to fix all of that. And then it can stitch it all into one great big image that everything matches up on. And this can be huge. The one we did recently up in northwest Sydney, we ended up with a photo that was about 18,000 by 12,000 pixels when it joined them all together. So it's pretty big, pretty hard to work with, but you don't typically need all of that size for a lot of what we do with it. The time you do need that size is because once you've got that, we can feed it into another piece of software that breaks it down into map tiles. So you can put your imagery over Google Maps or Apple Maps on websites or in mobile apps, and the photographs that you've taken, they all get broken down into a collection of little squares at different zoom levels. Those squares are different sizes, and that's what you need the 18,000 pixel big map to do, because when you look at little bits of that, you actually want to see the resolution of all of that.
Yeah, now I remember you showing me when I rocked up at your desk, you had this image of Google open and Apple, and a comparison of how our map, sort of compared. There was no data updated on Google or Apple because it was considered a private venue, and we did the shoot there, and we actually put all this together. And when I remember seeing that you also zoomed in and showed me a comparison of the zoom levels. Is that right? So we do get much higher resolutions, yeah?
Yeah, because some of Google's imagery does actually come from satellites, and they're a long way away, and they've got really good cameras on them, but they're still a very long way away, which means the most you can zoom in on Google Maps in a lot of places doesn't give you a whole lot of resolution down on the ground. I think the one we were looking at, depending on how big an area we want to map, there's a whole bunch of trade-offs. We pick a drone with a bunch of constraints about it. If we're flying in certain places, we want to use really small drones for safety, and that means we've got limitations on the cameras that they can carry and their duration. We pick which drone we use based on parameters around the location that we're shooting. And the output of that then determines how much resolution we get on the ground. So I think those ones we were looking at, I'd flown everything at 90 meters altitude, and the optics on that particular drone meant that we could zoom down on the ground, we could very clearly see the top of somebody's garbage bin in that image, where from Google Maps, it was like you could make out that there was a car parked out the front, but you couldn't see things as small as a garbage bin in it.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Hey, look, thanks, Ian. That was very insightful, and I'm looking forward to doing the next drone project with you, mate. So
it's always fun playing the drone.
Look, why not? It's like these kids' toys, right? We bring our toys and we get to fly them as well. So fantastic, Ian. Thanks very much. We'll see you soon. All right, cheers.